Hi, I am Carolyne Paine, and I am here with Michael Scott Druckenmiller. Druckenmiller?
There you go.
Oh my goodness. That's like the hardest name I've had to say in a while.
It is the hardest. You should have seen it in the service. It went underneath my arm in boot camp. But the nice thing is I learned the alphabet first in kindergarten. So, it does have its advantages.
Fair. So Michael Scott is a actor and you are a veteran and you have a medical and firefighter fighting background, and now you have also been a dedicated standout authority on set safety.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of go through all of that. We're going to get started by talking about how you got started in film. You were working as a firefighter, and then
Yeah. They had a sign-up down in Manhattan for this show that was starting up called Rescue Me with Dennis Leary. And they needed licensed and certified real medical professionals and firefighters because all of the medical scenes were not shot in studio. They were shot at the Jacoby Medical Center. So since it was a working hospital, to stop the production from having to recalibrate all the equipment and everything after, they needed licensed and certified people who actually touched the equipment. And on my first day, because it was there, it's like, okay, it's a day off. I can do this. I can get some good money. The SAG-AFTRA rep came up to me and pointed out that just so you know, you talked and you did this and you did this and you did this. And they liked what you were going to do. So you could either take the money that they gave you and never work again, or you can be what's called a must join. And they told me how much that money would be. And I was like, okay, but I did it. I then did 3 seasons on there as recurring, coming back and forth. But I was doing it part-time because I would do my vacation days or my time off.
we're still working as a
Firefighter, right.
BV.
And then between that and then being reactivated for Afghanistan and various other things, I made the conscious decision in 2018 because I could no longer work in those departments because of my ankles and my knees from jumps, to make entertainment my full-time career. And that's when I found my niche, because everybody has to have a niche. And my niche was that I come from not only the acting and understanding what sets are like, but I also have the safety perspective from being actively involved in firefighting and everything else. I also have the military background, so I understand to look outside the box and see things in a broader scope. And then I also have a master's in business process management. So I understand the dynamics of people's egos, how to work with them, and how to look at the big picture and how to let them come up with the idea that I plant to make sure that it gets done.
So at any point, you're probably the most qualified person on set for anything.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
So let's talk about a little bit about you as an actor. What would you say is a favorite project that you have worked on? And Dennis Leary was also a firefighter, correct?
No,
Or
he wasn't. No, his brother was, and he's been involved with a bunch of fundraisers for Firehouse, getting equipment and everything like that. So he made sure that things were realism, because even on one of the episodes, called 7, they won an Emmy on that one because they used real fire. They actually put up firewalls in a tenement building with sheetrock and then run gas lines through it. And it was a long setup, safety setup, because they wanted real flames. They didn't want just the CGI and everything like that to make it more believable. So that was very interesting. There's been multiple sets as far as being an actor, but one of the nice ones that I had as a surprise, because I was the medical advisor on Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, and as a reward for everything that I had done for them and working within budget constraints, they had called me over, and Todd Phillips was asking me questions. What would this character do? What would they say in this situation? Because they were trying to write a scene for something that was coming up. And I did it, and I walked it through 2 or 3 times. He kept asking me questions. He says, good enough, you just passed your audition. Go get mic'd up. And I'm like, what? He says, this way you get residuals for the rest of your life on this, because we can't give you a bonus for everything else you've done. Studio won't let us. But now, since you are SAG-AFTRA, you're now a principal on this. So those are the nice things that happen.
yeah, very cool. So let's shift and talk about your work and goals for safety on set. You and I talked a little bit about this, and I think it's really incredible because it's not something that is talked about a lot. So you talk a little bit about what you kind of have created in some many ways a position on set that is not necessarily in existence.
Right. It's in existence in theory in certain major studios. NBC Universal has it. Disney has it on set productions. Hulu has it. And then there's some sets in Calgary and Alberta that have it as well. But there's nothing in general that encompasses, because whether you're actor or crew, you have this perception that you are working in a safe environment. You also have this notion that major studios have put in your head that you are only an artist. And it's a great idea to think that you're an artist, but you're an employee who has guaranteed a safe working environment. And it's not only to get the job done, but to make sure you can get home and come back to work the next day. And too many times they say you have to suffer for your craft, but you don't have to suffer in such a way that you get hurt or die. And there's no reason that any of that should happen. That no matter if you're on a macro budget or on a multi-million-dollar project, somebody's life is just as valuable. And that's why I've been working with the Mark Milstrom Foundation over in Europe. I've been working with David Schaefer at NBC Universal. I've been working with Kent Jurgensen at IATSE out in LA, and also various legislatures to help bridge the gap. Because, for example, if you're working a union project and you don't have a trifecta of a DGA contract, IATSE, and SAG-AFTRA, you are SOL, because they all rely on each other for safety. If you don't have a DGA, you don't have a first AD who is in charge of safety. Now it falls on production, and per OSHA right now, because they have a lower standard for TV and film, the person in charge of safety is appointed by production, only has to have a general knowledge of first aid and AED. They don't even have to be certified. So all of a sudden you go in there thinking that you actually have somebody watching your back, and you don't. And so that's where you have to break the paradigm of the actor and the crew member who's afraid to speak up because they think they'll never work again. You also have to change the paradigm of the unions of being reactive to being preventative. And you have to change the mindset that just because you've done something 14 times doesn't mean that an accident's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's when it actually happens more on sets. Usually on the teardown is when the most accidents happen, not when during production, because that's when they just want to get home Friday night. They don't want to go into a Saturday. They just want to get there, and all of a sudden, now they've worked 16 hours. They either get an accident on set or they get in a car accident going home.
Yeah. And we talked about actors feeling pressure to not come forward about safety concerns,
Right.
and just simple things that actors would face, like allergies.
Right. I mean, simple things where working hand in hand with casting. If you have a background call and it says it's going to be exteriors, and they say, okay, they will provide transportation, but they don't disclose to that actor that it's going to be in upstate New York. They will provide transportation for it, but you're going to be working in around a garden and there's going to be bees. That actor never thought to tell anybody, I'm allergic to bees. They assume, because they have an EpiPen, hopefully, that they're going to hand that off to a set medic. But then they find out that as far as production is concerned, it's not a hazardous situation, so now there is no medic. What they're supposed to do per SAG, but most actors don't know this, is call up your rep and say, this is a hazardous situation for me. And per SAG, the production then has an option to get the set medic or to pay you for your full day and release you because it's now a hazardous situation. But most actors are afraid to know that, and they don't talk about it till after. I even had a situation on a film I won't bring into name that's recent, where the executive producer was also the director and also an actor. And I got a phone call from Stunts asking, what do we do? I'm like, what do you mean, what do you do? It's like, you won't believe this. Yesterday, they dismissed the stunt coordinator while we were doing stunts. And we had 18 background, and XYZ happened, and this person got hurt and everything. I said, why did you continue? And it's like, as soon as the stunt coordinator is gone, it's in the SAG contract. You need to stop unless you are coordinating yourself with nobody else around you in a situation. And they said, well, you know, it's been long and hard since, you know, the strikes ended. And I said, you can't do that. You're setting yourself up to fail. And with that, it undermines the contracts and it puts other people at risk. So we've got to break through this mindset that you are actually being the bad person for pointing out where production is failing. Because production will actually save money in the long run because they'll be able to show people that they get lower underwriting insurance, that they have no injuries on set, and to be able to track this, and more people will be able to work it, and crew will be comfortable working rather than all of a sudden just talking about it on social media.
So, I mean, obviously, it has been in the media and everyone knew about what happened on the set of Rust. Have you found that incident has made things easier in what you are trying to advocate for, or has that actually caused a little bit more pushback?
It actually depends on which venue you're talking about. Major studios, again, such as Disney, NBC Universal, they get it. Okay. They will give me a call even to say, are you available? We need somebody to stop by Equalizer and do a spot check and check on things. But the macro budgets, which are the new paradigm, that's because, I mean, LA is quiet right now. Lots of stuff is shooting overseas, and they're even doing a lot of indies films where there's going to be selling product placement and such like that. People, the macro budgets don't understand. They say, okay, we're not doing anything. We don't really need to study safety. And that's where the pushback comes back, because they go, oh, okay, this is isolated for Rust. They don't understand. But then you have situations where they don't look at the big picture. They don't realize, okay, literally, we need to lock down the street. We don't need a situation like Midnight Rider, where they went by a simple train schedule rather than actually getting a permit to film on that railroad, where you have a situation like Resident Evil, where they rehearsed it XYZ numerous times, and now all of a sudden they changed the safety protocol. I even had a situation where I was an actor in Sully. I thought it was going to be my last day. I had nothing to do with safety, but I was working and I was taking a person off of the water ambulance. We have rehearsed it numerous times. It was shot in pouring rain. Now, it was taken out post that it looked sunny because they would never land it on the Hudson if it was raining. But all of a sudden, there was a steady cam that was right there. And I had a former soap opera actress in her golden years strapped in a mobile wheelchair, but immobilized. And I had a choice. Either the camera was going to hit her or I was going to take it out. So I pivoted and I actually broke the lens off. I thought for sure I was done. Actually, the second came over and was reprimanding me, and Clint Eastwood came over and he said, I saw the whole thing. Yeah. It's like, first up, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. He says, thank you for saving her. And then he actually dismissed that camera operator from set instead. And he actually bumped me up to a day player role for that, because I took safety more serious than I did the camera equipment. And that's what needs to be done, because we are working on a set. We are there to provide entertainment for somebody, but under no circumstances should anybody ever die or get hurt making entertainment for somebody else. Even stunt people understand that they aren't taking precautions. They wear pads, they take training. They don't do, all this other stuff, to make their life miserable. They do it so they can work tomorrow, so they can go home and see their families. And that's why it's imperative that people understand that this is something that is above the line. It needs to be addressed in everything, and plant the seed from students on up so that mindset is there from the get-go.
As I think that it is so wonderful to hear your passion for this. And I think that any of us here who are performers or work on set are really moved to hear that there is someone who is so passionate about keeping a set safe, because everyone has had a story where they've been part of an accident on set or seen something. So I think it's so wonderful. So thank you for that. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, what here in Connecticut, why do you think that it is so important that we are celebrating and doing events like this and really trying to push filmmaking here in Connecticut?
Selfishly, it's so I can put my head on my pillow at home.
Amen.
I have been numerous times going out to LA, going down to Williamsburg, going wherever. And if I'm lucky, maybe on the weekend come home. Sometimes it's months away. But during the strikes and such, fortunately and unfortunately, my mother ended up being in hospital for 127 days and in rehab back and forth. Luckily, the strikes happened so I could come back home and take care of her. But I would love to be able to work at home and go to bed at home. I pay taxes here. It's like, I would love to support local industry, local manufacturers. There is so much diversity here. I mean, even when I was working on Manifest, the showrunner, his son was going to Wesleyan. Even when I worked on The Irishman, the first phone call I got, I thought it was spam, was from a Connecticut number. The second graduated from Connecticut and kept his cell phone number. So there are so many people that get trained here between Quinnipiac, Wesleyan, UConn, Yale, but they don't work here. And it's ridiculous. We have the infrastructure, we have the locations, we have obviously the talent because we're professionals and we work everywhere else. Why can't we just work at home?
I love that. Great way to end. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.